It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe for free to the California Report by going to my Substack, randywangradio.substack.com. And then when I post this thing around noon every day, it goes straight into your inbox. With that, let's start today's California Report. And this story really highlights just how out of place and out of touch Los Angeles is with their constituents. There's a neighborhood in Valley Glen that was dealing with a whole lot of burglaries and robberies and other kinds of quality life crimes. So they weren't being listened to by the LA City Council. They weren't being listened to by the mayor. But what did they decide to do? They decided to take the law into their own hands. No, we're not talking vigilante justice. We're talking they banded together to fundraise to buy a few license plate reading flock cameras. And they put up all kinds of signs saying there is 24/7 security, warning, cameras in use. And in the year that they've had these cameras, they haven't had any incidents. It's been incredible. Because of the surveillance and the warnings about surveillance with this technology that other cities are using very well, this neighborhood, this little alcove, is safe. But the city of LA can't have that now, can they? Because, you didn't go through us to put up those signs. You didn't go through us to put up those cameras. So the city of LA is going after these neighbors because, you didn't put up the signs properly. And of course, the neighborhood's trying to do everything they can to keep their security cameras, to keep their signs because it's working. Adrian Nazarian, the member of the city council, says, I'm going to go meet with them. You shouldn't even have to do that. You should see what is working and replicate it. I don't understand why, of all the big cities in California, Los Angeles is so late to the party with these flock cameras. They have been used to great effect in places like San Francisco and San Jose. But here, the only way we're getting them is if neighborhoods buy them. And even then, the city doesn't like it. Now, that social media trial is still going on in Southern California, and the CEO of Instagram has now testified saying, what are you talking about? We have all these safeguards for kids. I don't know where this trial is going to go, but I don't think it's going to be a hard sell to say that these products are insanely addictive, which, again, isn't necessarily something wrong. I mean, it's a product that you use all the time. In theory, it's very helpful. Of course, most of what people do is doom scrolling. But is there something to, if you're making something addictive for children who have developing brains, it can screw up their development, then you might have something there. So what's the end result going to be? Are we going to do what Australia is doing, where you're banning all social media for anyone under 16? Maybe, but how do you enforce that? It's a lot of questions are going to be answered in this trial, but this is not going to be the only lawsuit. And some of this is totally warranted, but some of this is because these companies have deep pockets. Now, I got real excited when I saw that there was in the Bay Area an update on the Shang Tao corruption scandal.
Absolutely.
Now, Shangy is still awaiting trial, but the former mayor of Oakland wasn't the only person picked up in this big FBI bust, this indictment of the Dong family from California Waste Solutions, who had this scheme in Oakland and San Leandro and other cities to contract to sell $300,000 shipping containers as homeless housing. And one of the people that they got caught up in this scheme was a San Leandro city councilman by the name of Brian Acevedo. He is now pleading guilty. He's the first guilty plea in this case. And what's he pleading guilty to? Well, among other things, lying to the FBI when his house got raided. But more importantly, this scheme where he was going to get the city of San Leandro to buy a bunch of these shipping containers, and then he set up a bank account in his wife's name, and they were going to get 25% of the profit of every single sale. Shang did something very similar in Oakland, according to the FBI, although Shang's is a little different. Shangy set up where the city of Oakland was going to buy a whole bunch of these shipping containers from California Waste Solutions in their new company, Evolution Homes, but she was not going to get anything for it. Her boyfriend, however, was going to get a non-existent job at California Waste Solutions for $300,000 a year or something like that. Now, Brian Acevedo is an interesting witness because if he's pled guilty, that means he's cooperating. And if he's cooperating, he was there at this bizarre trip to Vietnam with the Dongs and Shang and Acevedo and other dignitaries that led to a lot of crooked dealings. And Brian Acevedo, he's not the smartest guy. He was interviewed by Dan Noyes of ABC7 in the Bay. And Dan said, "Did you make any kind of deal with the Dongs for these homes?" And he said, I don't remember nothing. And immediately I think he knew, oh, wait, that's a bad answer. The strike in San Francisco is still going on. Day 4 of the teacher strike. And it's got to be a real pain in the butt if you are trying to deal with the fact that now you do not have childcare. People are taking off work. There's been a real economic hit, $7 million a day. And I don't know how much support the teachers union has now compared to if they did a strike like this 5 years ago. Because in cities like San Francisco and LA, there's still a lot of parents that are pretty damn pissed about the COVID lockdowns. And who wanted the schools closed longer than anybody? It was the teachers unions. Now, once again, we are hearing the cries for the doom loop when it comes to public transportation in the Bay Area, specifically Bay Area Rapid Transit BART saying that if they don't get this sales tax hike in November, they're going to have to close 10 stations, which could then lead to a doom loop of sorts where now there's less service, so less people will ride it, so they have to make more cuts, so less people will ride it, so they have to make more cuts. I don't know if voters are going to support this tax. I'm sure there is a lot of money being wasted at the Bay Area Rapid Transit. They definitely need to be getting their house in order, but I don't want to see public transit go away. If I lived in a place where I could use public transit and it was safe, I would. I hate driving that much. And BART has made some really good improvements for as much flack as they deserve for turning those trains into homeless shelters during COVID. They installed the locking fare gates in every single station. They've increased their revenue by $10 million by doing so because people feel safer, because people who aren't supposed to be on the trains are not on the trains. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, every time I see this story, and NBC in the Bay always covers this, and it's one of those instances where California is the technology capital of the world in everywhere but government. Because whenever government wants to upgrade their technology, it's a disaster. California EDD, the DMV. Every single time a local municipality or a school district updates their payroll system. And one of the things that has been a real disaster everywhere it's been implemented is this thing called Next Gen 911, which is a huge tech upgrade to 911, except the person who envisioned the project resigned out of shame. And everywhere they've tried to implement it, it's had massive problems because California doesn't go to the tech world and say, hey, help us with this. Everything is a crooked bidding process where you're a contractor who's just a friend and you are getting in way over your head with something you know nothing about. You're telling me with all the technology at Google, all the technology at all the AI companies, we couldn't have a state-of-the-art 911 system within days? But no. So there's a member of the legislature who's looking to pass the Fix 911 Act to add a lot more oversight before this thing gets rolled out. Now, this final story in the Bay Area, this is the story that I would point to when people like to say, oh, we have the best healthcare system in the world. I don't know if people say that. If they do, I think it's crap. There is a lifelong 30-year firefighter in San Francisco. And after 30 years of firefighting, he found out he has stage 4 lung cancer. Not from smoking, but from, fighting fires and inhaling smoke. So he has a great oncologist. He has a great treatment plan, but his insurance keeps denying the treatment. Even when the doctor says it's necessary, even when the city says, why are you denying this? The insurer is denying cancer drugs to a 30-year firefighter. How do we allow this to happen? And if it's that the drugs that this guy needs are so expensive, well, why are they so expensive? I just think this is emblematic of how our system's kind of a mess. And sure, you might not want to go the way that some other countries are going, but don't tell me that everything's great here. It's been awful. It was awful before Obamacare. It's awful after Obamacare. Do you know how many people I know that are afraid to use their insurance even for a checkup because they're not sure how much they're going to have to pay for anything? It's like something you have to pay for, and if you ever need it, you're scared to death if it's actually going to be able to be used. Now, there are plenty of instances where insurance works out great, but when it comes to what kind of plan is the fire retirees on in San Francisco where they're not getting cancer drugs? It's just, if you got time, you should check out that story. It really, really bothers me. And look, I know I'm probably painting with a broad brush, but it sure seems like the most heartless among us work in home insurance and work in medical insurance. Because I don't know how you could do that job every day and go to sleep at night knowing what you're doing. There, I said it. When we come back, we'll get into the debacle in Sacramento with Jennifer Newsom going after the press and so much more on the California Report. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Before we get back to the California Report, do I have something exciting for you? 790 KABC welcomes Noah Kahan to the Great Divide Tour at the Rose Bowl, August 15th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. Now, back to the California Report. You can see today's California Report at randywangradio.substack.com. Gavin Newsom held a press conference yesterday where he was announcing $90 million that they just found between the couch cushions that's going to go to fund Planned Parenthood after federal cuts. Because look at us, we're big time in the federal government. And sure, great, good for you. When it came to the Q&A, the reporters who go to these press conferences to hear Gavin bloviate and say mindful over and over again know that this is their only opportunity to ask him questions, because Gavin does not sit down for local interviews. Gavin does not go on local TV. He does not talk to local newspapers. So when they asked a bunch of questions that weren't about Planned Parenthood, Jennifer Sebald Newsom, the first partner, shoves Gavin off the podium and starts going after Ashley Zavala, the top political reporter in the state, and everyone else in there saying, how dare you not ask on-topic questions? And let's just say in the 24 hours since that happened, it has not gone over well. Members of the California Press Corps are speaking up and they are speaking out. And it's interesting that it happened, because this happened the exact same day that a lovely, flattering profile of the Newsoms was posted on Bloomberg. I should have posted a link to this, but you don't need to watch it. I watched it and I was like, no, you don't need to see this. But it was keeping up with the Newsoms and checking out what it's like to live at their house in Marin County and how, the mom puts her kids in the car with her jammies on and she likes to go for a walk and then she likes to figure out what they're going to have for dinner. And turns out the real Jen Newsom is screaming at reporters when they're not talking about her issue. Now, this is kind of fun. I don't know if you know the name Paul Mitchell. He's the guy who drew the Prop 50 maps. He's also the guy that puts out the ballot trackers when we have elections in California. He has put out a simulator website where you look at all the latest polling and you see what is the likelihood that your top two candidates in the California governor's race are going to make it to the November runoff. And he actually has a fun little thing where you figure out your two, what the chances are, and it shows them in a little graphic from the movie Twins, where the number one vote getter is Arnold Schwarzenegger and the number two vote getter is Danny DeVito. So here's what's interesting. Based on all the recent polling, because there are so many candidates in this race, there is actually a small but significant 12% chance right now, so not impossible, but improbable, a 12% chance that both candidates going to the runoff will be Republicans, that being Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. Although Steve Hilton is going to do everything he can to make sure that doesn't happen because he is going to war with Bianco lately. In that debate that was on KTVU and Fox 11, he was asked a question about immigration and sidestepped it completely so he could go after Bianco. And I guess that's a strategy. I don't have a dog in this fight, but they want to make sure that there's only one prominent Republican in that race. Now, in San Diego, and this is a California story, but if I get it from a San Diego station, then it comes on the San Diego stories. The federal government last year ended the federal subsidies for electric cars. And Gavin found more money in the couch cushions. He wants to put forth $200 million to help first-time buyers of EV vehicles with thousands of dollars of credits, matching credits from the manufacturers, although it has to be specific manufacturers, and something tells me they're not going to allow you to use it on a Tesla. But that's okay. Tesla's like the old thing. There are so many newer models and newer cars out there. But even with the rebates, these cars are still very expensive. Now, I own one and I love it. And not having to get gas is great, but there are other expenses, including car registration that is triple what it was for my old car, because I'm guessing it goes by the weight or the value of the vehicle. That being said, I'm a big fan, but I'm a big fan because it works for me. I charge it at home. I have a single family home and I use it for commuting. I took my electric car on a road trip last year to wine country in Santa Barbara. It was a nightmare because already you have, if you're not on a Tesla network, you have a slipshod array of different charging networks. Some of them are fast. Most of them are slow. Some of them don't work. And if you don't have cell reception in the area you're in, like Santa Ynez Valley, good luck connecting, because a lot of these things you can't even use your credit card. You need to use an app. San Diego's broke, and that's why they keep jacking up parking fees. Well, guess what? San Diego did an audit, and one of the ways they could be raising money is looking at expired leases that they have to all the fancy country clubs for all these golf courses, where they could get millions of dollars by charging market rates and not these discounts. So they're giving discounts to the glitterati, but the people that want to go use Balboa Park for free, we got to charge you for parking. I posted this video. It's under the category Eunices Hernandez. But Eunices Hernandez, the big DSA candidate, the defund the police candidate, she has put out a video. What are her budget priorities for 2026? And yes, they all involve spending less on police and spending more on her pet projects. In the governor's race, Matt Mahan went on with KPIX, not just to talk about his candidacy, but also what he thinks about the Bay Area transit tax. And in the crime blotter, someone's passing around fake $100 bills laced with powder in Irvine. And in Yolo County, someone stole a bunch of bees, but they got them back. And that is today's California Report. If you would like to subscribe, it's free. RandyWangRadio.substack.com. When we come back, we will speak to somebody running for city council against Hugo Soto Martinez.
Yeah, clap that up.
It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and download the California Report every single day. It is my list of all the stories up and down the state of California that I find interesting. randywangradio.substack.com. We cover a lot of the nonsense that goes on at the LA City Council on this show.
Broken windy theory.
Oh, yeah. That's my member of the LA City Council, Imelda Padilla, who famously yesterday said, you know, some of my constituents don't want fixed streetlights because they want to see the stars at night. Then, of course, there's Eunice Hernandez.
Because we are the defund the police people, right?
And she has been a disaster. And in Hollywood, there's Hugo Soto Martinez.
You know, let's criminalize catalytic converters. Let's criminalize copper.
But here's the thing. These people are not permanently on this council. Some of them are up for re-election. Ulysses is up for re-election. And Hugo Soto Martinez, who represents a lot of Hollywood, he is up for re-election. And the voters will have to decide, do they want 4 more years of Hugo?
Yeah, clap that up.
Or is 4 years plenty of Hugo? Well, we're about to talk to somebody who is running against Hugo Soto Martinez in the LA City Council District 13. Dylan Kendall, welcome to the News Blitz.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You can check out her website, dylan4district13.com. That's dylan4district13.com. Let's start off by introducing yourself. Tell us who you are and why you want to run for public office.
Hi, again, thanks for having me. Dylan Kendall. I don't know that I had a good reason to want to run for public office, but I have a damn good reason for wanting to run for Council District 13. And that is that in my 30 years in this district, I have never seen it so profoundly neglected as it has been in the last couple of years since our current council member has taken the seat.
Well, and we have seen a lot of destruction of Hollywood and the other parts that Hugo represents since he took over. You know, there's one example that sticks so clear in my head. There was an apartment building that was vacant in Hollywood, and it was taken over by squatters. And the neighbors were complaining over and over and over again to Hugo's office, and Hugo wasn't doing anything. There was drug use, there was prostitution. There was one neighbor saying they were shooting snuff films. I don't know if she knew what that meant. Hugo did nothing until that building burned to the ground.
Yes, he didn't do anything after the building burned to the ground either. I don't know if you were waiting for something to happen. In fact, what he did do was act as about unempathetically as I could imagine a person acting, facing a woman who lived next door to that building in tears as she had to deal with the fear of having a fire that close to her apartment. That's the only thing I saw him do at the end. That building actually had 7 fires before it finally burned down to the ground. They were calling for help, the residents who lived around that building. I don't know the number of times, I would say for maybe a year, and they were being entirely ignored by the council member, and LAPD was struggling because they are not getting the support they need from that council member to enforce. It was a completely avoidable disaster had someone actually invested, the council member, in listening to what his constituents needed from him.
One of the issues that's plaguing all of Los Angeles is the amount of streetlights that are broken, in disrepair, or have been vandalized thanks to copper wire theft. And some members of the city council, like Tracy Park, have formed task forces that still really haven't shown a lot of results. You have some members of the city council that want to invest in solar lights because I guess you can't steal those components. But famously, it's a clip I play on this show all the time. When this issue was brought up, not just about stolen copper wire, but about stealing catalytic converters, Hugo Soto Martinez said that you cannot arrest your way out of this problem, and then said,
let's criminalize catalytic converters, let's criminalize copper.
If you were a member of the city council, what would you do to crack down on copper wire theft?
That's a great question. I want to go back and add a few more times where Hugo Soto Martinez has again been out of step with what his constituent needs. And I won't avoid the copper wire question, but we can continue going down that path. He voted also against rewarding informants from the neighborhood community members who have information about the people stealing the copper wire theft. He was one of two who voted against rewarding them for giving that information over to LAPD. He also has stood against the removal of RVs when they become blight and are no longer operable, and they are contributing again to more disorderly behavior on the streets, like gangs running drugs through them or sex trafficking. So to go back to copper wire, you have to really understand this isn't simply just about copper wire theft. This is a gateway leading into all the other crime behaviors that are impacting residents. So for example, we have streetlights out in Larchmont and Windsor Square, which has led to a significant increase in prostitution and sex trafficking of minors. And those are acorn lights. They're historic. So our best form of attack would be immediately to install the cells for solar just to get the lights on while we figure out if there are other strategies we can use to protect the historic lights and bring some much needed enhancements back to these neighborhoods. I would have to follow the same tactic that Tracy Park is doing. This requires a task force immediately to do several things all at the same time because we can walk and chew gum. Install solar, look at how we secure copper wire more than we're doing right now in order to make them. We need to outsmart the criminal, and then we need to enforce. We need to enforce more heavily. We need to continue to empower LAPD to do their job.
Well, and on top of all that, something that I don't think gets enough attention, unlike so many other stolen goods where, okay, maybe you're offloading it at MacArthur Park or you're offloading it on eBay. When it comes to stolen copper wire, there are very specific places that you're taking it to. You're taking it to smelters and junklers and recyclers, and these are all licensed businesses. And it sure seems like for as difficult as the city of LA makes it to do business for so many different legitimate businesses, when it comes to going after the people who are buying the stolen copper wire, we don't have a lot of options.
No, I agree. Again, you want to look at this from multiple strategies to reduce the behavior, and certainly going after the buyers, in addition to the suppliers, is another strategy. And I think overall, just to take it back to Hugo Soto Martinez, you have someone who has publicly come out on taking any steps that seem to actually penalize any group of people. And I think that's one of our biggest problems. His approach to public safety is, we'll just let the phone keep ringing long enough, and if we don't answer, eventually they'll stop. And that's not what the constituents want any longer. They want someone who shows up and actually says, I hear you. Let me take all of the steps possible. For example, attempting to, what you're pointing out, Randy, stop the buyer, right, to impact possibly the interest of the supplier to continue to supply, and also do the other strategies. Look at solar for fast relief. Look at how we secure the boxes better. Again, realizing that the one solution that won't work is doing nothing.
We're speaking with Dylan Kendall. She is running for LA City Council District 13 against Hugo Soto Martinez. Now, I drive through that district quite often, and one thing that I notice, and it's true in a lot of districts, but it's especially true in Hollywood, Hollywood is filthy. Illegal dumping in this city is rampant, and none of our elected leaders, including Hugo Soto Martinez, have any real answer for illegal dumping. How would you tackle that problem?
Again, these are multi-layered problems that require us to understand holistically all the factors that weigh in on what's causing the problem and how to solve it. So we know we have delayed 311 response time. I mean, me, myself, I put a chair on the parkway, I call 311 to come pick it up, and nobody shows up for 4 weeks. We have a serious budget problem in this city, and that's because we've been so unfriendly to the business community. We've made it so difficult to develop. We've made it so difficult for small business to continue to, put their contribution as a gross tax into the budget, that the reality is we're broke. And the more broke we become, the more our city services are going to be impacted. So number one, we've got an issue just with staffing, right? We're just under-resourced. Then we have the issue again, we've stopped really messaging that we care about our city. So of course people think nothing of leaving bulk items on the street and not even calling 311 because we're not signaling to people that we care any longer about what our community looks like. And then of course we have encampments that are contributing to a massive amount of bulk, different than what you're suggesting. I think illegal dumping is more what people are actually doing with bulk because they're moving or they're just. But then we have encampments, which are collecting so much furniture, collecting these ridiculous green trash cans. Not that I'm opposed to composting, but we've oversupplied these green trash cans in Council District 13. So now I see green trash cans pulling up in encampments because they've just been left on the sidewalk and not getting picked up by sanitation. So I think encampments are another issue where we see a lot of stuff just get, acquired, and the city doesn't service the encampments or pick up the things. Some of it's hazmat issues. Some of it is just, again, they're not being empowered to do so in terms of 4118. Hugo has said he won't enforce against 4118, which makes it very difficult for LAPD to go out and handle some of these encampments. Again, these are multifaceted, layered problems that require someone to actually think about all the different ways we can tackle and find solutions. And what we have certainly in our district is someone who is so ideologically focused, it's coming at the expense of doing what the job is, which is basically customer service politics, which is fixing up our neighborhood so we have the quality of life we expect to have for what we pay in taxes and the quality of life we want to have because we love Los Angeles so much that we don't want to move. And unfortunately, in Council District 13, to go back to how I opened it, it wasn't that I felt a call to public service. I felt a call to this district. I felt a call to making sure Los Angeles is a city that we feel proud to be in again. And I just can't say that I think a lot of people do.
The website is dylanfordistrict13.com, DYLANFOR district13.com. Before you go, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Give your pitch to the voters. Why should they support you in June for Council District 13?
The 60-second pitch, look, I'm a mom. I raised my kids in this district. I think we all want to go to a park and be able to kick a soccer ball around with our children and not have it run into a tent or a hypodermic needle. I just think we're exhausted. I think we can be compassionate and at the same time bring some structure and a commitment to public safety back into our neighborhood. So when we're walking down the street at night or we're doing an early morning jog, we feel like our neighborhood has our back. And I don't think we felt that in Council District 13 in the past couple of years. If anything, we felt that we're neglected, ignored by our council member. He rolls his eyes at us in public meetings. He just doesn't care about our quality of life as families, as people trying to start our businesses here in this district any longer. And that's why I'm running to challenge him, because I think we deserve better.
Dylan Kendall, running for LA City Council District 13. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure we will talk soon, and good luck on the campaign trail.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much for giving me some time. Much appreciated.
There you go. I asked, please, somebody run against Hugo. we have somebody running against Hugo, and you can see all of her platform at Dylan4district13.com. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang
Yeah, clap that up.
on 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. There's quite a few movies coming out in the theaters this weekend, including, as you know, Steph Curry is going to be starring in an animated sports movie about animals. It's called GOAT, because that's the term that everybody loves to use now. It follows Will, a small goat with big dreams who gets a once-in-a-lifetime shot to join the pros and play Rollerball, a high-intensity, co-ed, full-contact sport dominated by the fastest, fiercest animals in the world. By the way, do you know there's a show on Amazon Prime called The Goat? And it is a reality competition show that makes fun of all the reality competition shows. And it stars Daniel Tosh from Tosh 2.0. It's a good time. Also, this sounds like a good time. Here's a movie. I love Sam Rockwell, and he's starring in a new movie called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. A man claiming to be from the future who takes the patrons of a LA diner hostage in search of unlikely recruits in a quest to save the world. Also starring Juno Temple from Ted Lasso. And in limited screenings, there's a darkly comic sci-fi action film called Cold Storage, following a deadly microorganism that'll stop at nothing to spread, starring the guy with really nice hair from Stranger Things and Liam Neeson. Yeah, that one sounds a little too spooky for me. Even in a lit room, it would be spooky, but in a dark theater, I don't know. And Crime 101 is starring Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo. And no, it's not an Avengers movie. Davis, a veteran jewel thief, plans to steal diamonds along PCH. He's pursued by an LAPD detective after the heist, and hopefully this one will be his last. And look at this. Apple TV has a movie coming out called Eternity. My wife wants to watch this one. We're going to have to check it out. A romantic comedy where everyone must decide who they want to spend eternity with, starring Miles Teller, Elizabeth Olsen, and Callum Turner. So those are some of the movies coming out this weekend. When we come back, I'll tell you what I will be having glued to my television all weekend long because I'm a sucker for reality TV garbage. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Well, it premiered yesterday, and so I know what 10 hours of my life in the next few weeks are going to be dedicated towards. It was the ultimate COVID reality show, and it has turned into quite a phenomenon on its own. But anytime there's a new season, and there's a new season every 6 months on Netflix of Love is Blind, the pods are open, and we got to watch. Now, the last season was kind of a disaster, the Denver one. Nobody actually got married. But it's still, you know, if you're into Netflix-style reality shows and that whole world, it is fascinating. My favorite part of that show is the second or third episode. So if you don't know how this show works, everyone's in the pods and you talk to each other through a wall, but you can't see each other. So you got to get to know each other. It's kind of like how John Phillips and I do the radio show. We don't actually see each other because he's in Palm Springs. Well, by the second or third episode, everyone's going on 16 dates a day and they start forming these connections. And then almost like clockwork, every single person starts sounding like they took Molly because they're digging deep into their past and they're opening themselves up and they really start to think they love this total stranger. And they all start getting so mushy and so ridiculous. And then they finally meet and they go on a big trip to Mexico, and they all act like total strangers to each other because they are total strangers. It is delicious reality garbage, and we watched the first one. Nothing too exciting yet, but that's what we will be spending some time on because our usual garbage this time of year, which is the winter version of Love Island, which is now Love Island All-Stars, has been just a little disappointing. I don't know. I think they've ran out of all-stars for that show. But that's when my wife and I want to just tune out and we don't want to pay attention to what's going on in the world, put on some dumb reality dating shows. There's just something about it. You don't have to be totally paying attention to it. Sometimes these shows are just on while I'm cooking or I'm playing my Nintendo Switch, but it's a great way to chill out and check out on the weekend. And then if it's the weekend that we're doing it, I'm going to be making some margaritas. I had a neighbor that has a grapefruit tree, and they just had a massive harvest. So I made some palomas last night where I did 2 limes, 1 lemon, and 1 grapefruit. Put that in with some beautiful Blanco tequila, either a Mijenta or a Comisario or Lalo. Lalo's really good too. Just clean, perfection, and reality TV. It needs drinks. I don't know how you watch that stuff sober. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.